in-store salespeople of cosmetic brands on the purchase of female college students in China. This is the content. I have 9 parts to introduce, and they are introductions, literature review, problem statement, theory, framework, conceptual framework, hypothesis, research methodology, results, and discussion, conclusion and implications, limitation and future research. From a report, we can see China was the world's second largest cosmetic market of the US in terms of revenue and the consumption value in 2018. And female college students in China had best purchase power, especially in cosmetics. And globally, near 30% of shoppers make their buying decisions in the store. And a study shows more than 40% of customers are influenced or persuaded when they enter the store. So there are direct interactions between salespeople and potential customers. Salespeople very, very crucial because it is kind of personal selling. It will influence customer buying behavior to a large extent. So it's come to our literature review and the problem statement. We know the primary objective of this research is to utilize HALL-1 model. This is a customer satisfaction model to find out customer of Chinese female college students' satisfaction to in-store cosmetic salespeople. We'll also examine the factors that determine salespeople's service quality. The objective related to the theoretical background of cervical model for investigating in-store salespeople in the cosmetic industry and discussing female college students' customer satisfaction in China. This is a literature review. We can see from the previous research, we know that product quality cannot be conveyed through the internet. And the consumers want to touch, to feel, to see the product. So this is though now online shopping is trending now, but the offline store is also very important because the customer want to see it. And if retailers and cosmetic company want to build brand loyalty channels and service to succeed, it is critical to understand how consumers' enjoyment of the shopping experience affects their attitude toward the store channels. And the interactions between salespeople and the customers affects the customers' perception of quality, the value, the word-of-mouth intentions. Also, we know that in the service industry, the quality will focus on meeting customer needs, customer satisfaction, and how service provider meet their expectations. Also, they have 2 models I will introduce later. They are cervical model. It is based on the view that customer evaluation of service quality, there are 5 dimensions. And the HALL-1 model, this is a customer satisfaction model. Okay. This is the theoretical. The cervical model is a tool to measure and manage survey quality. We can see they have 5 dimensions: the tangible, the reliability, the responsiveness, assurance, and empathies. But we only choose the last 3 to measure in our research, because the first 2 is not about the salespeople. They are more about the company. The company's equipment, maybe the company's premise. So it's not our objective to measure these 2 parts. We will measure these last 3 parts in our research. So the responsiveness is include listening to the customer and answering questions, but not pushing unrequited options. Assurance means the knowledge, the inspiration of trust and the confidence of the salespeople. And the empathy means the caring, individualized attention of the salespeople. Okay, next is our ACSI model. ACSI model is the American Customer Satisfaction Index model. It is a cause and effect model with index. And it is a fundamental customer satisfaction measurement that assesses how consumers perceive the offered service. And in order to meet customers' needs and to analyze managers' performance, many companies use it to measure customer satisfaction. And also, we only took these four parts: the perceived quality, customer expectations, perceived value, and overall customer satisfaction. The last two parts, the customer complaints and the customer loyalty, because we only want to know the overall customer satisfaction in our research. Okay, from these two models, we can draw our conceptual framework. We have three independent variables from cervical model, and they are responsiveness, assurance, and empathy. And the three mediators from the ACSI model. They are PQ, they are PV, they are CE, and the dependent variable, the overall customer satisfaction. From this conceptual framework, we can see there have a lot of paths. For example, from IES to PQ to OCS, from IES to PQ to PV to OCS, from IES to CE to PV to OCS. Therefore, we can develop a lot of hypotheses in order to draw our conclusions. So next part is our hypothesis. We develop 18 hypotheses. For example, the hypothesis 1 is IES have a significant influence on overall customer satisfaction. And the number 2 is IES have a significant influence on the impact of perceived quality on overall customer satisfaction. We can see the first one is the total effect, and the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one, we input the mediators into our hypothesis. And the same as ASS and empathy, the same as assurance and empathy. Okay, it comes our research methodology. In this research, we use questionnaire to do the research. In order to better collecting data and statistical analysis, we use both English and Chinese version. And before the formal questionnaire, we use pre-test, and we invite 30 pre-test respondents to answer our questionnaire. And finally, there are 206 respondents finished our formal questionnaire, and we use 7-point like scale. Okay, this is our reliability test. From this table, we can see all of our variables are greater than 0.8. Therefore, our reliability is good. And the measurement, we will do the mediation analysis as our statistical method. The HALL process in SPSS was used in our research. HALL process is a statistical mediation analysis in SPSS to estimate the path coefficients using multiple regressions for the continuous outcome. And it provides insights on the boundary conditions pertaining to the direct and indirect effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable through the extension of mediation variables. And we use two models in our research, the model 4 and the model 6, because some of our hypotheses only have one mediator. So we use model 4 to do the analysis. And some of the hypotheses have two more than one mediators. So we will use model 6 to do the analysis. Okay, it comes to our result. This is the profile of our respondents. We can see all of our respondents are female Chinese college students in this area, and 91.8% of them use cosmetic at least once a week. 84% of them use cosmetic at least once per month. And the cosmetic shops and the department store are two places that they like most to buy the cosmetic products. This is my questionnaire. Every variable, we have 5 questions to ask our respondents. This is a relationship test between variables. We can see most of them have strong or moderate relationship between each other. And this is the total and the direct effects. We can see from the p-value that all of our variables have a significant influence on our dependent variable. For example, IES to OCS, ASS to OCS, and EM to OCS. And some of our hypotheses through our mediators, for example, the H4, H5, H7, H8, H time, and H11. We can see also this table. So we find the service quality of the salespeople in cosmetic physical store has a significant influence on customer satisfaction. And from the questionnaire, we can know Chinese female college students prefer salespeople to respond them fast, be polite, trustworthy, give them more attention and knowledgeable about the product. And the implications, we have two aspects. From the theoretical perspective, we can see we use 2 models. So in the future, other research, they want to measure the relationship between service quality and customer satisfaction. They can use this model. And from the consumer behavior perception, this study explored the attitudes of Chinese cosmetic brands to better understand the requirements of the students and help brands better choose and train their salespeople. Also, the limitation, the number of respondents are limited. So in the future, we can choose more respondents to do the research, and we can do more demographic research. And this is our direction for the future research for the larger sample size, other targeted customers, and different cosmetic brands. This is my reference. Thank you for your listening. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions or contributions, ma'am or sirs? I think currently none. If you have still questions regarding this presentation, you may write it on the chat side. Thank you very much, Zedan, for your presentation. And we will continue with, let me check it out for you, with Severin and Thomas. Now, my word is yours, Severin. You may start. Thank you.
Hello, Professor Bingo. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Of course, we can hear you loud and clear.
Can you also see me?
Of course, clearly.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much for the feedback, because I cannot see myself here, but maybe that's not a bad thing.
Okay.
So, hello. I want to say merhaba to our generous Turkish host, and ni hao to my Chinese colleagues. And I'm talking to you from Austria today. and give me a second here with the presentation. How can I do this?
Sorry, my microphone was off. So you may see it on the bottom side, show the screen or show now. Did you see the button on the bottom right?
Yes, but it does not.
Perfect.
But I cannot.
Yeah. If you no, you don't need to click stop presenting. You need to click your presentation file, and we will see that. Okay.
Like this?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Now give me 1 second to come back to. Okay. So we'll just do it like this. If this works for you, you can see my slides and you can hear me well, then this should work for me. We all have to adapt to technical problems. So what I want to talk about today is something we often don't talk about, which is about power and control in organizations and in management science. And what I will present to you is an empirical paper, an empirical contribution that I've been working on with my colleague Thomas Höge. So this is the content of my presentation. I briefly will talk about the background and purpose of the research, but in the center is actually this main conceptual model, the integrated taxonomies that I will present to you today. And you can also see here on the left hand in the end, I want to finish with some limitations. Does this still work? Can you see me? Can you see all this? I have a problem getting feedback, to be honest.
Yeah, there is no problem. We can see your presentation.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for reassuring me. So the purpose is to explore and assemble the components of what we call a socio and psychodynamic perspective on power and control. To do this, we integrated interdisciplinary literature in the social sciences from sociology, psychology, economics, and management studies, but also system theory and political and social theory. At the core is a taxonomy of power that distinguishes four types: formal, economic, real, technocratic, normative, ideological, and the formative biopolitical dimension of power, and corresponding forms of managerial control as commodification via markets, coercion, co-optation, and creation. I will go back to that in a bit. And we also integrate different domains of critical inquiry and systems, levels of system analysis, as well as institutional logics or processes. And this may look a little bit abstract, but it becomes more clear here. So that's the core model. You see the different levels: society, economy, individual, organization, and we also have this sub-level of the unconscious. I may have not said before, I'm a psychologist. I work in a psychological department. So we are interested in these psychodynamic processes in particular. So here on the left, you see the taxonomies that we integrate, the modes of power I just mentioned, then those levels: economy, society, organization, individual, and unconscious. These domains of critical inquiry, interests, ideologies, institutions, identities, and what we call imageries or fantasies. That's on this lowest level, on the psychodynamic level, and then corresponding logics, like economic systems logic, the social and political logic, and then the individual psychological and psychodynamic. And on the other hand, we will talk about, we develop structural ideas on the dynamics and intentions. So one is more the structure view, and the other one is more like the dynamic, the process view. And they come together in this model that we see. And now I will walk through some of the taxonomies that we integrate here. So these tables you see on the left-hand side, and I will only have to be able to go through this pretty quickly, but give you an idea of how we pulled together a lot of literature here. So again, this is our core taxonomy. The different types of control are linked to historical phases in the labor process. So it's an historical approach For example, formal control, economic power has developed in the area of the Industrial Revolution. Then we have the so-called managerial revolution, like scientific management, that's the technocratic power or real control. Then the industrial era, where people were more controlled through ideologies, through commitment, normative control and power. And now, today, what we call advanced neoliberal capitalism, the idea of biopolitical power, formative control, forming populations, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, all these new technologies that come together in this new era that we experience today. So the background actually of this is classic social critique or social criticism, that is a Marxist theory, and labor process theory that has been developed on top of this. And continuing the Freudo-Marxist approach in social philosophy, we distinguish the psychodynamic and the sociodynamic perspective. The psychodynamic perspective refers to the internal psychological process. The sociodynamic perspective links this with the broader societal level and social developments. So again, I cannot go into much detail here. And what we did here is we took the taxonomy of neoliberal ideology by Ball and Dorsey, and we further differentiated these levels. So they differentiate the political logic on the society level, the social logic on the organizational level, and what they call phantasmatic logic, with subliminal process on the individual level. And we further, as you can see, distinguish those and differentiate them. And an alternative way to look at this is like a layered model, where each layer contains all other layers in some form. So the middle layer here would be the organization, the management control system that also contains the society, the individual level, all rolled into one in these patterns of self-similarity that we were talking about. And also you can see here that we distinguish these different levels: the economy as a meta level, society as a macro, organization as a meso level, individual micro level, and then this additional sub level of psychodynamic fantasies and subliminal processes, which we are grappling with right now, as you can imagine, is a pretty complex issue. So that's just the same model in a different view completely. And here you can also see how we integrated these forms of management control, commodification, contract compensation, economic forms of control or administrative forms of control, coercion, commands, constraints, compliance, these technocratic forms, and then these co-optation, commitment culture, social and formal controls, and today these formative biopolitical modes that actually a form of creation, so of corrosion and conception and co-evolution, domesticating, forming the appropriate individual, as I say. And finally, we further classified different forms of control. The idea is that control and power can have a function of objectification, turning people into things, resources, but also subjectification. So basically displacing control from external to internal. And on the other hand, that we can distinguish between abstract and embodied or structural features. So economic power is abstract, ideological power or normative power as well, but technocratic power is embodied in the disciplinary apparatus. So it is manifested in, say, the social technical structure of the organization. However, biopolitical power is also embodied, but it is in the bodies and minds of the individuals. So this is genuinely a phase of social engineering, as we would call it. Now, this is just a repetition of what I just said, power between objectification and subjectification, symbolic and structural. And with this, I'm already closing my presentation, or coming to a close with an outlook. What is the current state? Where are we standing right now? What are unresolved issues? And I try to symbolize this here as under construction. That's the issues we're grappling with right now, especially those dynamics at the intersection between different subsystems. So I identified three parts, three theoretical challenges. One is this new quality of control through biopower and biopolitics. These are terms that go back to Foucault. And these are not really completely developed yet, at least in our model. Then the psychoanalytic dimension, bringing together psychodynamics and social theory to better understand how these power dynamics transfer and interact on different levels. And what we believe is particularly suitable here is so-called social character theory, a psychodynamic theory, which is most closely associated with the social philosopher Erich Fromm. And we believe that this will fit here and make a valuable contribution to our model. So again, I repeat here what I said, that we will have to pay more closer attention to the psychodynamics and the sociodynamic interfaces, and these new developments of psychological governance and pre-formation will be called biopolitics and biopower, and how these, what we call autopoietic patterns of self-similarity, meaning that similar patterns repeat on different levels. So the economy models society after its image, the same with organization, and similar to the human psyche, which is also influenced in these patterns of self-similarity, the individual person as an enterprise. So let me sum this up. The idea was to introduce a model of power and control in management organization science. A core is that we integrated these different taxonomies into what we call a dialectic, a dynamic multi-level framework containing the society as a macro level, the economy as a meta level, the individual identities at psychological level, and organizations, institutions, and then this additional unconscious level of psychodynamics and sociodynamic logics. I talked about these emergent or autopoietic self-reproducing patterns of self-similarity across different scales of analysis, and how these processes of subsumption, subjugation, basically means exercise of power on different levels, reappear on lower levels in different or similar processes, but in a different level. For example, on the psychological, with the social, with the organizational, with the societal, or the economic level. And we interpret these in terms of processes of character development, as I said, drawing on theories of dynamic social psychology, especially Erich Fromm. The idea is to generate a more complexified understanding of power and control. And important is that this is something we do not normally think about a lot, right? There are good reasons why we do not think about this, because maybe we should not think about this. Those in power do not want us to think too closely about power and control. So I want to finish my presentation with a few quotes and final thoughts that I maybe think is fitting. Psychology, which is my field, cannot be understood without taking into account the complex interdependent dynamics of power and control in societies, in organizations, in individuals. However, oftentimes these are very neglected issues. That's why we feel we need to bring them in with a more holistic social and psychodynamic perspective. The background is developing critical work organizational psychology, which is my field. And so we definitely, or we explicitly draw on critical humanist approaches to integrate those levels I've been talking about. And finally, I want to end with a quote by Deakin, who says that to understand how we have become what we currently are requires, he's drawing on Foucault here, not a theory, but an analytics of power, which examines how technologies of power and knowledge have since ancient times intertwined in development into concrete historical frameworks. And this is how I want to understand this presentation. We are trying to build something like an analytics of power to have a more comprehensive and broader view of process of power and control, which oftentimes are not salient to us, we do not think about, but looking at the state of the world, we probably should. So thank you very much for your interest in my presentation. Also, if I'm happy to share any material with you, please just send me an email, or otherwise I'll also be here and very happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you, Severin, for your presentation. Actually, we are just recording on our screen, and we will release these records on our YouTube channel. And also, I may provide details about your emails to our participants. If you have any questions, contributions, I may take it. And also during that our whole presentation, you may write it on a chat site. So thank you again, Severin, for your presentation. And we will continue with Chan Yuan Kong's presentation. Actually, a little bit admiring because lecturer Yasin Nurçakır is with us. He is the co-head of our esports research center. And he's looking forward to listen the determinants of the sports player and sports team sponsors, brand equity in a gender perspective, I guess. Yeah, Chan Yuan, this is your turn. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Professor. Let me share my PPT. Hi, this is Chen Yuan Kong from Wenzhou Kim University, and today I'm here to present my thesis. And my topic is the determinants of the sports player and sports team sponsors brand equity. And here's my contents. I have 7 parts. First, let me introduce the background. The sports sponsorship is a kind of sponsorship that takes sports as the object. It refers to the commercial activities in which enterprises and the sports organization marry. Enterprises provide financial, material, or lab support to sports organizations. In contrast, sports organizations reward them with intangible assets such as advertising, naming, and patents to benefit from each other equity. And the purpose of my paper is to study facts that influence decisions of sponsorship and sponsors or sponsor team brand marked matching degree on consumers' purchase intention. And here is my conceptual framework. On the left side, we can see 4 independent variables. They are sponsor team identification, perceived congruence, and sports player identification and their perceived congruence. And in the middle, there's only one mediator, which is sponsor credibility. And on the right side is there is one dependent variable, which is sponsors brand equity. And here is my theoretical framework. Let me introduce my hypothesis. My hypothesis have 2 main parts. The first part has hypothesis 1A. The higher the recognition degree of sponsor team fans leads to the higher the credibility of sponsors. Hypothesis 2A is higher the consistency between the sponsor and the sponsoring sports team leads to the higher the credibility of the sponsor. And hypothesis 3A is the higher the credibility of the sponsor leads to the higher the brand equity of the sponsor. And the part 2 is similar with the former part. The only one difference is replacing the sports team with sports stars. The hypothesis 1B is the higher recognition degree of sports stars fan leads to the higher the credibility of sponsors. And the hypothesis 2B is the higher the consistency between the sponsors and the sponsor sports stars leads to the higher the credibility of the sponsor. And hypothesis 3B is the higher the credibility of the sponsors leads to the higher the brand equity of the sponsor. We used the online questionnaire. The questionnaire was answered by 211 Chinese internet users all over China. And we used the Likert score from 1, which means strongly agree, to 7, strongly disagree. Here is the demographic of the respondents. We can see there are more than 75% of respondents. They spend many times on watching sports or doing sports every week, and more than 85% respondents they buy the products that sponsored sports stars or sports team. And here is a Crouchback's alpha of each variance of data, which is the reliability test, which tests the level of internal consistency. We can see all variables are above 0.9, which means the reliability is good. And the results of the correlation table shows that all the data are not negative, which means they are all significantly related. And by using process way to analyze, seems my research only have one mediator, so we use mediation mode 4. It can test the causal effect and the mediating effect. The results of the p-value shows that the STI, SSI, STC, SSC, and the sponsor the two mediator sponsor credibility, they all positive affected to the dependent variable, which is the brand equity of the sponsor, and the results shows all my hypotheses are accepted. Summing implication and future research. The previous result shows that the consistency between sponsors and sports teams or stars is a useful predictor of the brand equity of sponsors. Therefore, companies promoting brands in China can sponsor sports teams related to the team's product category or brand image. Companies can also fund their owners to produce related products or teams with similar or complementary image to the company. Of course, the strategy of linking sponsors to the sports team or team owners is also attractive. For example, develop advertising slogans, connect two entities together, or sponsors teams of sports-related events. In China, team identification is still effective in the current situation. So the company is supposed to sponsor a sports team with loyal fans. The company can focus on activities that inspire fans to identify with the team, such as donating funds to the fan club and its internal printed magazines and newsletter. Due to the nature of my study, there are some limitations which provide a way for future research. First, the focus on this study is limited to the US Lakers and Chinese basketball star Yang Ming. Their relationship with sneakers, Nike and Reebok. Therefore, the future research can compare the impact of sponsorship on brand equity from the long-term and short-term perspectives. It is possible to introduce trust, commitment, and loyalty into the current environment. These antecedents has been found to affect consumer perception. And here is my reference. Thank you for listening.
So thank you, Chen, for your presentation. Are there any contribution or question regarding to Chen Yun's presentation? If you have, I may take it. Otherwise, you may write it on the chat site. I think there is none for now. It was so nice presentation, by the way. Thank you very much, and it shed lights on us, our esports center. So we are going to continue our session with Kifan Wang. Kifan will present us to consumers' perception of the corporate social responsibility in China and a study of male cosmetic consumers. Yeah, I may give you 20 minutes, Kifan. Thank you. But currently we can't hear you. We can't hear you loud and clear. Kifan, I guess we have an issue with your microphone. Let me mute you and yeah, okay. No, we can't see. We can't hear, by the way. We can hear your screen, but we can't hear your voice. Maybe you can check it on the bottom right in the settings tab. You may control it on the right side. You will see the three icon, yeah, and it's go settings, yeah, and the audio. Is there another microphone? What about the next one? Projector. No, it's your built-in, huh? Okay.
To be able, it should be the initiative of Turkey.
No.
The decision of
Good. Okay. Okay. Now. I think. Let me check it out. No, probably Zedan's microphone is on. We still can't hear you.
Open to discussion. Enable a French and a Libyan ship. I think they crashed. They started to question that. After that, in the parliament, and yeah, it's open the way for discussion again. But I totally agree.
We may do that like that, but could you please approach to Zedan's computer, and you may present your study on your laptop, and you may talk from Zedan's laptop. We might
Yes,
do that.
doctor.
Yes, I use Zedan's laptop, and you can hear my voice from the Zedan's laptop. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, that's great. So can we start right now?
Of course, please.
Thanks. Okay. So wait a minute here. Hi there. I'm Qifan Wang from Wenzhou Ken University, and today I'm going to present my research called "Consumer Perception of Corporate Social Responsibility in China: A Study of Male Cosmetic Consumers." And here is the main contents of my research. First, I will introduce my research and the problem statement. Next, I will introduce the theoretical framework, the conceptual framework, and the fourth one is the literature review. In the next half part of my research, I will introduce the research methodology, results, and the discussion. And in the final part, I will make the conclusion and the limitation of my research. Here is the first part. I will make the introduction of my research. In the current social context, under the influence both purchasing power increasing and new marketing trends, people care more about hygiene and beauty, which lead to the dramatically increase in the cosmetic industry. China, as one of the fastest growing developing countries, also appears the same trend. According to the statistics website, the total sales of Chinese cosmetic market record RMB 200 billion in 2018. While it's still in a high growth rate in recent years, it's a significant part of the not be ignored. The sales of men's skincare products keep the 7.8% increasing rate year on year in 2018. So there is another factor that plays a significant role when consumers choosing products corporate social responsibility, that is CSR. CSR requires the companies involve the activities that benefit the societies but not in the company's obligations. Recently, more and more international companies have realized the importance of corporate social responsibility, which they found can improve consumer satisfaction and loyalty. A good corporate social responsibility can help the companies cultivate positive image among consumers. And this impression usually expressed by other predictors, like consumers' willingness to reward or punish the companies. So the primary goal of my research is to uncover the male cosmetic consumers' perception of CSR. Therefore, the objective of this study is first to examine whether the male cosmetics consumer will influenced by the CSR when they make a buying decision. And the second one is to identify the CSR related elements which influence the male cosmetic consumers' buying motivation. The result of this study will help the cosmetic companies, especially those doing business in China, prepare a more integrated advertising plan through CSR to increase its sales and the reputation. As mentioned in the previous slides, the CSR provide a chance for the companies to build positive among consumers. Under this condition, the advertising plays a mediator in this process. It can both persuasive the customers or provide information to them that makes the consumers aware of the CSR behavior that companies did. A successful CSR advertising can give consumers confidence towards the companies or products. Therefore, more and more companies, they now put effort into the social responsibilities. And here is my conceptual framework of my research. We can see that the independent variables are the expectation about CSR behavior and the perceived importance of CSR, while the mediator variables is attitude towards a brand with CSR. The dependent variable to punish. Next part is literature review. And here is the outline of my literature review. We can see I make research on the CSR in China and cosmetics, the advertising as strategy communication tool in CSR, consumers' perception of CSR. And the last two is willingness to reward and punish and consumers' attitudes towards CSR. Here is an overview of relevant literature on CSR and male cosmetics consumers in China. Well, so now let's move to the next part. This is the third part, which I will introduce my research methodology. This study only chose male participants among 215 responses in total. All the male participants are the cosmetics consumer from different places of China, of different ages, educations, buying preference, and monthly income. The majority of male aged in 23 to 27, 91.7% of the sample receive university or higher education level. And most of the participants, they use cosmetics 3 to 4 times per week. An online survey was carried out in China to fulfill out the research objectives. Respondents were required to answer 4 past questions, including the willingness to reward, willingness to punish, consumers' perception about the importance of CSR, and expectations about CSR behavior. The 7 points lacked the scales that ranging from 1, which means strongly disagreeing, to 7, which means strongly agreeing, was used in this study to measure all the items in the survey. To make sure that the items in the questionnaire are reliable, a pilot test, which I tested 50 responses, was conducted before the formal survey. There were no problems with the items shown in the test. Therefore, all the items were maintained to the formal questionnaire. In this research, the alpha value of the willingness to reward and the willingness to punish are located between 0.6 and 0.8. Perceived importance of CSR behavior located in the interval between 0.5 to 0.6. Therefore, the variable of alpha is all located within the range between 0.5 to 0.8. That is, the variable's reliability of this study meets the universal standards. And here is the correlation table of data. The correlation of value between mediator, that is attitude towards brand with CSR, and independent or dependent variables are all less than 0.3, showing they have a very weak correlation. The direct relationship between independent and dependent variables is between 0.3 and 0.5. Which means they have a strong correlation than the mediator. And now let's move to the next part. Here is my results. The hypothesis 1 is accepted because male cosmetics consumer expectation about CSR behavior will positively influence their attitudes towards brand with CSR. The hypothesis 2 is rejected because the result expresses that male cosmetics consumer perceive the importance of CSR is not significant to the attitudes towards brand with CSR. The next one is male cosmetics consumers' attitude towards brand with CSR will positively influence their willingness to reward. Therefore, the hypothesis 3 is accepted. The result shows that male cosmetics consumers' attitudes towards brand does not positively influence their willingness to punish. Therefore, we reject the hypothesis 4. And here is the mediation analysis. Through the mediation analysis, we can find that the path EB to WTR. In this path, the independent variable EB as a predictor, WTR is a dependent variable. The analysis of them showing that effective of the mediator between the path EB to WTR, PI to WTP show that in the same way, which means the independent variable may have a direct effect on the dependent variable. Now let's move to the next part of my research. Here is the discussion and the conclusion. Through the analysis before, I found that male expectations about CSR behavior will influence their attitudes towards companies with CSR, which means consumers perceive the importance of CSR will not influence their attitude. The second one is there exists a positive relationship between consumers' attitudes towards a company with CSR and their willingness to reward. The third one is customers' willingness to punish the companies or brand witnessed no significant relationship with the attitude. Here is the discussion. In the mediation analysis, the conceptual framework of this research fits the model 4 in process macro and EB2 WTP. The regression results shows that the Chinese male cosmetics consumer expectations about CSR behavior will not directly influence their willingness to reward and punish, rather than through attitudes change. Similarly, in paths PI2 WTP and PI2 WTR, the regression expectations about CSR behavior will directly affect the willingness to reward, but no significant influence on willingness to punishment. Another finding is that consumers have a strong willingness to reward the cosmetics company if it meets their expectations about CSR behavior. The result of the indirect effect shows that the attitude towards the brand with CSR as a mediator is insignificant. And here is my conclusion. The companies can decrease the budgets that focus on changing consumers' attitude, and at the meantime, they need to increase the budget to meet the consumers' expectations. Next one is companies need to increase the budget in CSR activities, which come from the results that perceive the importance of CSR will significantly make consumers want to spend more or less on the products. The next part is the limitation and the future research of my study. In this research, the limited interviews responses to represent the real conditions, and the segmentation of my research is also limited. Therefore, in the future research, the researchers can expand the demographic of the research to make the results more precise. And here is my reference of the study, and thank you.
Thank you, Qifan, for your nice presentation, and I want to thank you all participants to present their studies in this session. When we are coming to our end of our sessions, are there any question or contribution regarding to all presentations? If yes, please, I may open your microphone, and also you may write it on a chat site. If not, I will close this session, and we will start the next session titled as Labor Market Studies and Organizational Behavioral Studies at 2:45 with Turkish local time. Are there any question or any contribution?
This agreement, Libya actually gained 16,700
probably not. So I want to thank you all, sirs and ma'ams, for these informative presentations, and I appreciate all your efforts and fruitful informations presenting us. Right now I'm closing this section, and I will stop recording. We will start it again, I want to say 2:45. Till that time, you may still logged into our conference room, or you may disconnect and reconnect again. I wish you all have a pleasant day and a pleasant conference time. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Israel, the structure in that yellow area that you see.